Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks.
Hello, and welcome to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. We have a wonderful show for you today. First, we have Edie Williams, and she is going to be here with us talking about life insurance. Edie Williams is an agent with State Farm Insurance, and she's going to be giving us the ins and outs of life insurance and what all we need to know about when we are looking to get that policy in place. Then we have Jayne Evans with the Betty Griffin Center. And she's here to talk to us about how the Betty Griffin Center helps survivors of domestic and sexual violence in and around the St. Johns County area. So I look forward to speaking with Jayne about that important topic and the important issue that's going on with our families here. And then we have Donna Lee with the Alzheimer's Association, and she is going to actually give us a really good insight into where the future is going with Alzheimer's, that we are now moving into what's called more of a treatment era and not so much in the research phase anymore. So that's really exciting news. And Donna's going to, talk to us all about that. And we're excited to announce that she's going to be back with us this month to talk about dementia and Alzheimer's. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed, or perhaps you're caring for someone who has been diagnosed, please join us every Saturday as we walk through these issues, talking about insurance, communication, grief, ways to train your brain to keep you active, and so much more. And we're going to actually be compiling all of these resources for you and give you all of this stuff on our website, which is emilyhickslaw.com/dementia. And dementia is DEMENTIA for those of you who haven't had to spell it out yet. So if you want to head on over to that website, it's emilyhickslaw.com/dementia. We're going to have a lot of resources for you there, and it's going to connect with everything that we're going to be talking about in March. So we have a great show for you. Thank you so much for being here, and we will be right back. Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and I have Edie Williams here with me today from State Farm Insurance. Welcome, Edie.
Hi, thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You're becoming one of our regular guests, which I really appreciate because you have such great knowledge about insurance, and I love having such a wonderful resource to talk to.
Thank you. You've taught me a lot too. Like we were just talking about the concept of aging in place, which tell me a little bit more about that. Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that because I hadn't heard it and I'm like, I think that makes sense, but I would love to hear your version of that.
Well, aging in place is what everyone wants to do. It's really about making your home a place that is going to work for you as you experience maybe some physical or cognitive decline. And, we've had a lot of great guests on the show that, we talk about this quite a bit because bottom line, no one wants to go, or I say no one, that's not true. A lot of people don't want to leave their home, as they age. They want to stay in their home. They certainly don't want to go into a nursing home. A lot of people have a lot of fear around that. There's been a lot of horror stories, just a lot of things on the news all the time. Most people have a very negative connotation with going into a nursing home. And I hear it so much from families, and they say, we don't do that in our family. We take care of our family. And that's very admirable. And it's a really wonderful thing to do. But I've seen families that have 4 children with spouses that can't take care of one person with dementia. It's a 24/7 job, and they have their own lives. And then what ends up happening too with a lot of caregivers is their health starts to decline as they age or as things happen with their family. It's a big job, and it's something that certainly everyone wants to be able to stay in their home as long as they can. But aging in place is really what we're trying as a society to keep people out of hospitals, keep people out of, facilities as long as possible. And that's really, I think embodies the concept of it. So, yeah.
But I love that. And I agree. Most of the customers I meet with, that's their goal. They get towards retirement and they either relocate or they get their home just the way they want it after all those years of working hard, and they want to stay there and enjoy it and be around perhaps the neighbors or the friends or the family that they've intentionally decided to live around. And I think that's 100% a good way to put it, aging in place.
Yeah. And, I wrote an article recently. I'd been doing some research about kind of the new trends and, what seniors are looking for. And I found something that was kind of interesting that I have been thinking about lately. And that is that the new communities that people are building, not so much, I haven't really seen it here yet, but they're really not just mixed use, but mixed age. Because a lot of times, and I remember my husband's grandmother when she had to go into assisted living, and we would go see her, and she would complain, "There's nothing but old people here." She was not happy about that. She wanted to see young people and loved it when we came, to see her because. And it's so funny. Like, I remember thinking that, and I thought, well, at the time I thought, well, she would like that. But looking back on it, I see and I understand the new trend is really to have more of the elder, communities mixed in with families and things like that, because you like to see, the generations. And I could totally understand that point of view of not wanting to feel maybe isolated. So that I think that's maybe a trend that we'll see more and more of as we build new facilities and new communities. And certainly it's happening in other places, but haven't really seen much of it here yet. But I'd like to see if that's something that we start doing is mixing it up a little more.
Keep the energy alive. I love it.
Yeah. And I mean, you understand it, you like to be around. I have an elderly neighbor right now, and as soon as she bought the house next door, I warned her that I have children and that they play and they are doing their thing. And she's like, "I love it." She said, "I taught elementary school. I love it. It doesn't bother me at all." And I thought, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, that's fun.
But yeah, so aging in place is certainly that something that we all think about and want to make happen if possible, but can be quite difficult depending on the house and the situation.
For sure.
I'd like to switch gears a little bit and let's talk about life insurance. It's one of those things when you're younger, I think a lot of life events always trigger actions, right? So when you have a baby, I remember, I think we got our long-term policy, or not long-term, got focused on long-term care. We got our term policy, life insurance, when we had our first child, I think. So let's talk about life insurance and maybe what the issues are. I always recommend it to people, especially during their planning. Insurance is a really big component of any type of plan that you have for your family. So what do you say, Edie, when someone comes to you about that?
Well, I think you nailed it. I usually think about it when there's a life event. Yeah. Either I've gone through a family member passing away, whether it was unexpectedly or through illness, or I just got married or divorced or had children. Those are all things that make you think about it. And what we like to do is put it in people's mind before it's something that's hard. They're thinking about it because it's just part of this planning process. Like you're saying, let's just check the box of things I should think about.
Right.
As I'm planning. And there's so many misconceptions about life insurance. And I had those before I was in the business. So I just go back to when I wasn't in the business, what I thought and what I knew and didn't know, and most I didn't know. And one of them is that I just would have thought it was very, very expensive.
Yeah.
And I just read a survey not too long ago that generally 50% of the population think that term life insurance is about 3 times more expensive than it really is. Yeah. So that's the first thing is, I don't want to think about it. It's just another bill. It's something I don't want to pay for. So I'm just not even going to go there, not even going to talk about it. So the first thing is just opening their eyes to it's something that we recommend you talk about in terms of risk management and things that you need to be aware of that you can control with tools that are out there. So first of all, it can be affordable. And then there's many factors that go into the cost of it. So I think it's too expensive. What does that even mean? Here's all the different things that can go into the cost of life insurance. One is the type of policy. Emily mentioned term. Term is you pay into it. When there's a death claim, there's a payout. Okay, that's the type of policy. There's a lot of different other types of policies, so you can find something to meet your budget. Our philosophy is the right amount of life insurance is the amount that's right for you. The right and the type of life insurance is the right type is the type that's right for you. It should never be what someone says you have to have. It's what you understand and want, and that's what's the right amount for you. So, and of course, the best amount and best type is the type that's in place the day you die or the day you need it.
Right.
Yeah. And, if I could tell you when that's going to happen, I'd be doing, other things than buying lottery tickets.
You don't have a crystal ball when you're writing these policies?
Yeah. I always tell people, they'll say, when should I buy life insurance? I'm like, the day before you need it. That would be great. That'd be great. Then the other factor is age. So that's why when I first started in this industry, it was so hard for me to think about someone that is sitting in front of me dying. That's not what I want to talk about. So I really had to put my arms around, how can I talk to a 20-year-old about life insurance, someone who doesn't have any death benefit need, they maybe don't have any debt, which is beautiful, they aren't married, they don't have dependents. How can I even talk to them about it? And then I started understanding that's the best time, because in terms of affordability, it's going to cost, the younger you are, the least amount it's going to cost. So age goes into it.
Yeah.
Big part of it. Then gender does too. In health insurance, women cost more. Typically, men cost less. Why? Women live longer. They require more health stuff as we age. In life insurance, typically men cost more, and women cost less. So gender is just a part of it, but that's one factor. Health history is a huge part of it. There are a few things that are uninsurable, but for the most part, there's a lot of things that you can work around. And again, if you go back to, if you can get some coverage before you have health history issues, that's another reason why I look at it sooner than later. Yeah. But don't just assume you aren't insurable either. I have a sister who had two babies. Her children were a newborn and 16-month-old, and she was diagnosed with malignant thyroid cancer. She was in her 30s, very treatable cancer. It was scary and hard, but she got through that. And once she got through that, then we did life insurance on her. Oh, so wow. Yeah. There's a lot of conditions you can have that maybe once they're stabilized or they're treated, you can be considered for life insurance. So just ask rather than assume when it comes to, hey, is this a condition insurable? Can I still get it? Family health history is a big part of it. And all these things work out kind of like, almost like a credit score, but instead it's an insurance score.
Yeah.
So, maybe I have some health history that's not so favorable, but maybe in my family, but maybe my own health history or my vitals are phenomenal, or my health and weight, that kind of thing. So use your insurance score to your favor. And there's things you can do. Even occupations. If I have a job like me where I basically sit on my desk all day, desk job, I'm a little bit different risk factor than if I'm doing something like out delivering packages for a living. We can work around all those, but those are the kind of things that can go into it. Family health history, your own health history, your occupation, smoking or non-smoking. That one's an interesting one, because that's something you can get rewritten. So let's say you have a policy in place right now, and maybe you got it at a time when you were a smoker. You were a pipe use, cigarette or pipe or tobacco user, that kind of thing, cigars. And now you don't do that. You can often get that re-rated, and the insurance company, if you go apply for a re-rate, they can't hurt you in any way. They can't take away what your rating is and make it worse, but they could possibly take that rating off, and that can help with your premiums.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I think a lot of times people are afraid to tell you everything. And I always tell people, just I'm not here to judge you in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I probably have some of those things myself, but tell me, and then I can help you approach it from a strategy standpoint. Maybe we wait to apply until you've focused on some of these things, or we apply, we get a policy in place, and then a year later we re-rate it when your height and weight, when your weight has changed, or your smoking status has changed. We do a lot of that. Driving record. This is a big one that people don't think of. Again, it's your insurance score. And one of the first things I learned as a new agent 20 years ago was driving is a risk behavior. So if I, let's say, unfortunately have something like a reckless driving ticket or even a DUI, then I go to apply for life insurance, that can hinder my status and maybe my qualification. So again, I don't think any of that stuff's ever going to happen to me, but how do I know, So if I get that in place with my life insurance, I don't have to worry about all these things that can happen in life. And we all know in the series of your life, a lot of things happen, right?
Yeah. And that's not something you would think about coming up with a life insurance policy.
I think another thing too is what I do for a living. What I do now may not be what I do 20 years from now. Or like my husband, he is getting his pilot's license for fun. Okay. He already has life insurance in place, so we don't have to requalify him. But if I was doing a policy on him right now, that would be a question. He could still qualify, but I'd have to dig in a little deeper to know what kind of license he's getting, how many hours, that kind of thing. So again, I always say, just tell your insurance agent, like you do your attorney and your doctor, go ahead, we're here to help. And the more you disclose with us, it's confidential, and then we can help you approach it and help you with the strategy. So all those things go into it, but there are policies out there that can fit you and that are affordable. And we really can base it on what you need and what your budget is and what your goals are. So that's the biggest one. Don't be afraid to just ask. Don't be afraid to just ask. So then the second one is, we touched on this a little bit, actually the next two are the most common things I see, and we kind of touch on, but it's complicated. I don't want to talk about it. It's complicated. Sounds like it's difficult. There's a lot to do. I just literally told my team this morning, I said, it's interesting. The life application process is actually shorter and simpler than home insurance, auto insurance.
Yeah,
it really is. The conversations that lead up to it might be harder, just because you want to think through these things. But the actual application process, you apply, you answer some questions, you can sign electronically in most cases. There's a lot of types that you don't even have a physical required. There are some that are guaranteed issued. No matter what your health condition or age is, you can get a guaranteed issue policy. Those are really interesting too. So it isn't complicated. The person helping you will help you navigate that. And so don't be afraid about the process. And there's no wrong questions. It's very simple. And then the last one is just not understanding it, which is kind of like the complicated part, or all the things that go into it. And people are afraid. I'm sure you see this all the time, Emily. They don't want to sound silly, or I'm 67 years old and CEO of a business and I've retired and I don't understand life insurance, but I don't want to ask. I want to, and no, it's ask those questions. If someone doesn't know the answer, then it's their job to find out. And there's no silly question, just like anything. So remember, there's a lot of factors that go into it. It's not as complicated as you might think. And just ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask, hey, what should I consider? Or what can we do? What can we look at? Is what I recommend to my customers.
Yes, absolutely. And then it's funny, after they have it in place on my end, Edie, a lot of what we talk about, and especially when we're planning with trusts, for instance, is the beneficiary designations. And there's a lot of questions about that when you set up a trust. And I talk about funding the trust, and people get really confused about what I mean by funding the trust. And really, what funding is really just the titling. It's really just either changing those beneficiary names to the name of the trust in certain instances. You wouldn't always want to do that. And in fact, usually what you want your life insurance policy, you want that to go to a person, because that's going to be paid outside of probate. It's not going to have to be dealt with in any type of court process called probate. It's going to be paid directly to whoever your beneficiary, with the emphasis of no matter what your will says. So let's say I see this a lot too, Edie, like someone will have a will and they have, I want everything to go to my only daughter. Okay. Well, then I have this life insurance policy that has my ex-husband as the beneficiary, and guess what? It goes to ex-husband. It doesn't go to daughter that is named in the will, because those beneficiary designations are going to control what happens. So I harp on this a lot on the show, and in my practice is make sure they're up to date. And
I am so glad you brought that up, because we see it as well. And it's really frustrating when you might even know the intention, but it's not on the beneficiary. And we recommend annual reviews. If there's a life event, marriage, death, divorce, that kind of thing, child birth, that kind of thing, we recommend looking at it as well too. But at least once a year on your birthday is a good time to take a look at it and just say, does my beneficiary say designations, say what I want it to say? And you can be as creative as you want. You can name as many people as you want, but you nailed it. We've seen divorce situations and children out of, that were just complicated, and the designation is what rules, and it doesn't go to court. And so it's a great time to review it. And also sometimes, as you know, laws change in different states that can impact some of that too. So yes, and it's a very easy process to update your beneficiaries. You literally, let's say you emailed me today, you wanted to make a change. We're going to complete that and send it to you. You sign electronically, boom, and it's taken care of. So I highly recommend that.
Absolutely. And then I would just say, from my point of view, when I'm looking at planning with people that have minor children, that's something that you want to think about updating. If you have created a trust and put that in place, then that's something that you would want as an alternate beneficiary, perhaps after your spouse. And then the other instance where I see it is when you have a beneficiary that has a disability, that is on government benefits, things like that, that you do not want to inherit money directly. Then that's another instance where you really want to take a look at having a trust in place so that that person is not inadvertently kicked off of their benefits, because that happens a lot. And then certainly trusts are just they're a great planning tool for any type of situation like that. But if you have a family where the kids are grown, like everyone's healthy, there's no issues, and absolutely have that paid out directly to them if that's what you feel. If they can handle the money and there's not any other kind of extenuating circumstance, and that's always the best recommendation, the easiest thing. But if you do have, some other things going on, then we can talk about that. But Edie, thank you so much for being here today. I think this was really great to dispel some of the common misconceptions of life insurance.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure.
And if our listeners want to get in touch with you, how should they reach you?
Oh, they can find me easily just by on the internet looking for Edie Williams State Farm. That's spelled EDIE Williams State Farm. I'm at www.ediewilliams.com, and I'd love to help them, even if it's just to give them a second opinion or direct them in the right place to get some help with resources. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. You're always such a wealth of knowledge, and we really appreciate it. And you've been listening to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. We are going to put a link to Edie Williams with State Farm on our website, elderlawhour.com, and we will be right back.
Are you approaching retirement or entering a new chapter of life? Now is the time to consider critical decisions that impact your future and the well-being of your loved ones. As you navigate this transition, ensure you've secured your legacy through proper estate planning. Don't fall into the common misconception that you and your spouse can make decisions for each other in times of legal incapacity without a plan in place. Without proper estate planning, you risk a probate judge making decisions for you, which can be costly and cumbersome for your spouse. Protect your assets and ensure they align with your unique circumstances and objectives. Avoid the default state laws that may not reflect your wishes and could lead to unintended consequences, such as disinheriting your spouse or forcing them to litigate your estate. You also may be considering the possibility of a new relationship after the loss of a spouse. It's essential to enter these relationships with clarity, safeguarding your assets and preserving existing family ties. A premarital agreement becomes crucial in these situations, providing legal protection and clarity. When it comes to your children, thoughtful estate planning is key. Protect their inheritance from squandering, divorces, lawsuits, and bankruptcies. Your hard-earned wealth should be a source of security, not vulnerability. Additionally, plan for long-term care, a significant consideration as you enter retirement. Secure a long-term care insurance policy while you still qualify, and explore alternatives that can convert into life insurance if not needed. Statistics show a 70% likelihood of requiring long-term care after the age of 65, making proactive planning essential. Our team can guide you through this process, helping you replace impersonal state-written plans with a tailored approach that safeguards your assets and family. Don't overlook estate planning as you approach retirement. Book a call with us today to secure your future with confidence. Visit emilyhickslaw.com and book a call today. We'd love to help.
Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and I'm so lucky to be here with Donna Lee today from the Alzheimer's Association. Donna, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Emily. Always a pleasure.
Well, we have some bright and cheery news for our listeners today, because when Donna and I were just talking, and she informed me that there's an exciting new era, shall we say, that we are no longer in the era of research. We are now in the era of treatment for Alzheimer's. Can you explain that situation to me, Donna?
We are truly, truly excited. In my time, which has only been about 2 years with the Alzheimer's Association, up until very, very recently, it's always been talked about we're in the era of research, meaning that there wasn't enough concrete, tangible ways to talk about treatment. Well, now, as more medications are coming out, as more ways to be more therapeutic regarding dementia and Alzheimer's, as those things are developing and actually presenting themselves and navigating through the process of being available to the general public and patients and caregivers, things like that, it helps us shift the conversation to where, internal to the Alzheimer's Association, we are now talking about the era of treatment. So it gives us that much more of a more positive outlook, that there are more options, there are more ways, there are more opportunities for us to hit this and try to make it better. So there's some medications and things like that we can talk about today, and I've got the most up-to-date information as of February of 2024, earlier this month, and I'm just excited to talk about them.
Yeah, I'm excited too, because this really gives us a lot of hope. And that's what we need, because, diagnosis can often be just a really devastating thing for a person and for their family, to know that, okay, this is happening within the brain, and feeling powerless to really do anything about it. So that's where having these new treatments and this hope is so important. So let's talk about some of the new treatments that are available.
Oh, absolutely. So today I want to talk about and just kind of list and go over the FDA approved treatments for Alzheimer's disease, what those medications are. I want to make sure that we also leave everyone listening with just how to understand, where we can explain the impact of the anti-amyloid treatments on the brain and their potential benefits and side effects. I also want to make sure we talk about the pathways to access treatment, and of course, resources available through my beloved Alzheimer's Association. So we will jump right into those medications. So I'm still learning and sometimes stumble over the correct pronunciation.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad you're doing this and not me. I would pronounce everything wrong, but that's okay.
For any listeners, I need some grace. Let me ask for grace right off the bat. I may not get it right all the time because I'm still learning too. Until now, the only treatments available help to manage the symptoms of Alzheimer's, and it was really just for a limited time. We didn't know the underlying causes of the disease, and because each person experiences Alzheimer's differently, these treatments can work in varying degrees, and they're probably not effective for everybody. So some of those are like Aricept, and that is a generic name of something that was called Donepezil. You've got Exelon, which is the generic name of rivastigmine. Notice I'm being careful with
Sounds
these.
like a gas station, Donna.
It does. It does. And you've got a few more that were prevalent. However, now we have some new stuff coming out. So now we have Aduhelm, which is a monthly anti-amyloid antibody intravenous. It's an IV infusion therapy.
Okay.
This was first FDA approved as an anti-amyloid treatment therapy to demonstrate that removing the beta amyloid from the brain reduces cognitive and functional decline in people living with early Alzheimer's. Now, what that big long sentence says is this may have helped remove the cognitive decline in early, I'm going to say that word a whole bunch, in early detection. Because if you don't get ahead of it, by the time you get into mid stage or late stage, these things are off the table. So for anybody listening, if you have questions, concerns, you want to explore these, if you're not getting ahead of it early, it may not be an option. So get ahead of it early. Ask questions, seek screenings, seek information, and talk with your primary care physicians. The second one is a new medication that's called Leqembi. And again, I may not be saying it exactly perfect, but these two drugs are different from what was experienced before because they slow down disease progression by targeting the underlying biology of the disease process. So in a more kind of in-depth overview, I want to talk about Alzheimer's is a complex disease, but it comes down to what's called the two hallmarks is going to be plaques and tangles. That's kind of the simplest way to put it in there, plaques and tangles. Although Alzheimer's is complex and scientists still don't know yet the full underlying causes of these diseases, there's numerous factors that may actually contribute to it. Tangles are the protein that helps keep the brain cell healthy and allows for nutrients and other essential supplies to move throughout the cells. In areas where tangles are forming, nutrients and other essential supplies can no longer move through the cells, contributing to the death of the cell. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Yeah, so it's probably just kind of how it sounds, like if something's tangled up, nothing can get through it, right?
Yes, it becomes a roadblock. It absolutely becomes a roadblock. Think about it that way. And then when you've got a medication that is targeting the plaques, the beta amyloid is a protein that is naturally produced in the brain. But some scientists think that something abnormal is happening with the amyloid in the brain with people living with Alzheimer's. So when pieces of that beta amyloid clump together, the plaques form. And again, you hear about plaque forming in your arteries, forming blocks and things like that in your heart. Same concept. It's preventing the travel of the messages, which average about 70,000 messages in most people's everyday brain, 70,000 messages. And because of these plaques and tangles, you could have a large percent of them being blocked because of this happening. So ultimately, the brain cells are destroyed, and that eventually impacts a person's ability to function. Like truly decreases the physical size of the brain.
Wow. 70,000 messages. That's why you can't sleep, Donna, because you have all those messages going through your brain. There's too many.
I totally agree. If I could just find a way to just turn it down a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
Slow it down, I could probably sleep, but I don't anticipate that happening just yet.
Let's talk about the screening though, because you mentioned how important it is to catch everything early. So how can somebody do that? Can we go to our primary care physician? Are they the ones that can help us? What should we do?
So I would always start with your primary care physician. Now, your primary care physicians can do some cognitive screenings that could be as simple as, and it's so funny in the work that I do every day, because I will sometimes ask people, so has your doctor ever given you a grocery list to remember? And I can see people thinking, well, as a matter of fact, a couple of visits ago when I was talking about I was concerned about my cognitive decline or worried about, hey, my mother died with dementia or whatever. And they told me, hey, by the way, I'm going to go to the grocery store after work. Will you help me remember a few things before I can write them down? And they told me to remember butter, milk, eggs, and bread. And then 10 minutes later, he came back and said, by the way, what was that? What was that list? And I could only remember 3 or 4 of them. He was giving you a memory screening.
And you didn't even know it.
Didn't even know it. So it can be something just that simple. Just that simple. However, there's also our Florida memory disorder clinics. And they are, I believe there's 15 in the state.
Okay.
I believe that's correct. I'm just checking my number. 13. Yeah. 13 in the state. And there's also a brain bank location. So the memory disorder clinics and the Florida brain bank, it's where legislation has authorized 17 memory disorder clinics operating in 13 distinct service areas that provide comprehensive diagnosis and referral services for people with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. The clinics also conduct service-related research and develop caregiver training materials and educational opportunities. So there's 13 districts and 17 actual clinics.
Okay.
So that would be a map. It's a one-page graphic that you can find on elderaffairs.org. But one of the ways to access these type of treatments that we're talking about and or get screenings and or get into the conversation, if you don't want to go through your primary care physician, the Alzheimer's Helpline can help you access these clinics and get you into the initial entry points there.
Oh, okay, great. So the helpline, just for those, for our listeners, can we just give the helpline a little shout out?
Of course. So the Alzheimer's Association helpline, you can reach them by dialing 1-800-272-3900.
And they have it's just such a wealth of knowledge. I know I keep saying that, but it's so true. I've so many clients all rave about the Alzheimer's Association and how wonderful the groups are and how helpful it has been to help them and their families. So on top of actually getting screenings and these treatments, let's talk a little bit about if you are a family member and let's say you're getting concerned about a loved one's cognitive decline. A lot of times those around us see things before we actually see it in ourselves. So you guys have a communication tool that you're using. And is this a new tool, Donna, or can you tell me a little bit about that?
So we've just produced what's called a RAC card, and it's really designed for just the general public, the lay person, that kind of gives you a roadmap. Just the average person, the lay person. It's a very user-friendly roadmap for how you can recognize and adjust your communication rhythms with your loved ones or family members, depending on where they may be in this journey. The ability for us to adjust how we communicate. For instance, you wouldn't communicate with a middle schooler that may be 13 years old the same way that you would communicate with a college graduate that may be going on to medical school. We adjust our communication cadence and how we do things, how we communicate information, how we actually interact with them. We adjust that naturally every single day, depending on who we're actually interacting with. So this tool actually helps families, caregivers, and people around them to kind of understand, by making these adjustments and how you communicate, it helps make the day-to-day life, caregiver's life, the patient life, how their day-to-day journey goes, can make it so much better just by making a few small adjustments in how you communicate.
That sounds extremely helpful, because I think, when you're trying to communicate with somebody that has Alzheimer's or any type of cognitive decline, as a layperson, like I'll call myself a layperson because I'm not a medical, professional. I certainly don't have as much experience with dementia and dealing with, people with Alzheimer's like you, Donna, but I do have some patients, that have these issues, and it would, I would love to have as much help as I possibly could in knowing how to communicate properly, because I've learned a lot throughout my journey just as an elder law attorney and dealing with people and how to communicate to them by actually one thing like speaking to them directly and not from the side and things like that. But I would love to have a tool like that to help communicate as effectively as possible, and I'm sure a lot of caregivers would as well. So yeah, how can they find out more information about that?
So call the helpline, and we can actually get either an electronic link sent out to them, or even if they want the actual physical printed material, we can get that to them as well.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So thank you so much, Donna. One other thing I wanted to talk a little bit just briefly about, because I know we're running out of time, but we were talking a little bit earlier about behaviors that families often misinterpret. Can we just talk about that just to wrap it up for like a couple minutes?
Absolutely. So Alzheimer's, again, it actually physically shrinks the brain. So the brain's actual ability to maintain a certain level of behaviors, which is often a personal choice. So like somebody, a pastor, for instance, they've lived their entire life probably choosing not to ever use any kind of swear word. Okay. Mm-hmm. That is a choice. If that person's brain is physically decreasing, physically smaller, their ability to make that choice and to suppress that vocabulary, they know it. It's in there. They've heard it all their life. It's there somewhere. Their ability to suppress it and to choose not to use that language and that communication cadence may no longer be there. We actually describe one of the warning signs of Alzheimer's or dementia as complete personality shifts. You're seeing behaviors from somebody that you have never seen in 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So just being able to recognize number one, maybe they can't help what's happening, or trying to find out why this is happening. And we do have an entire class and actually some printed material that talks about how to understand what's actually happening. Like if this behavior is harmful, what triggered it? Is there something that's now happening that could be triggering often bad behavior, because people don't often pay attention to positive changes in behavior, but boy, that bad stuff sticks out.
That's for sure.
That's right. So, could it be related to medication, illness, pain? Could there be something physical triggering a different type of response? Maybe you've got somebody that's never expressed emotion outwardly, and all of a sudden they cry at the drop of a hat. It could be something just that subtle. So any kind of shift in behaviors, our new tools help you to kind of demystify what's happening. It helps the families explore and kind of figure out, why is this happening and how can we adjust our behaviors to help make this behavior better tolerated or no longer unsafe, that kind of thing.
Well, I think that's been really helpful. So for those of you who are listening, just, if you see these behavior changes and communication changes, there is help. And that is definitely to go to the Alzheimer's Association. And we'll put a link to that on our website, elderlawhour.com. And thank you so much, Donna, for being here. It's always a pleasure to have you. And we will be right back. This is Emily Hicks with Emily Hicks Law, and I'm excited to announce that we will be doing a live show on March 30th for the Elder Law Hour. We have some surprise guests in store, and we're going to be taking callers and answering your questions. If you have any questions and can't be here live, please send them over to us at com, and we would love to answer them on air for you. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of topics related to dementia. So please get your questions ready and mark your calendars for Saturday, March 30th at 1 p.m. See you there. Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and I am here with Jayne Evans from the Betty Griffin Center. Jayne, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much, Emily, for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being here. I have such deep admiration for the work that you do at the Betty Griffin Center. It's truly something that is much needed in the community, and it's a really, really difficult topic to think about and to discuss a lot of times, because you all do provide help with domestic violence, right?
Yes, we do, both sexual and domestic violence.
Yes. And could you just tell us a little bit about the Betty Griffin Center?
The first shelter was actually in a woman's home. Her name was Betty Griffin in St. Augustine, and we're in our 34th year. And the grandchildren of Betty Griffin Center, and I do hope I have my history all correct, that's how it all started. And we have grown to become a much larger force within the county. We do have an emergency shelter. We have 15 rooms, but we can care for 54 residents, women and minor children at one time.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a big facility.
It is. We also have some transitional housing as well. We do help men in emergency situations. Men make up about 15% of domestic violence survivors.
Okay. I did not realize that number was so high.
I believe that number is correct, but we also help them find safe shelter. We just we don't have the capacity to take care of both at the shelter. Sure. The Betty Griffin Center is the only organization in St. Johns County that's dedicated to serving survivors of both domestic and sexual violence. Our mission really is to help them navigate their way through their journey so they come out and are able to live life as they choose.
Right. Yeah. And what a great mission that is. Could we talk a little bit about the programs that you guys offer there? Because I know it's so much more than just having the shelter facility and the temporary housing. You guys actually have a lot of education and things like that as well, right?
We do. We serve in 7 vital areas of support, and I can give you a brief definition of each of them, but let me just highlight what they are. Safe and secure housing, which includes our emergency shelter. And we're open, by the way, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We have some on the helpline, so we never close. So we do have safe, secure housing. We have a rape crisis unit and provide sexual assault recovery services. Currently, we have 1 rape crisis center in UF Flagler Health Hospital, and we're about to open our 2nd location at Ascension St. Vincent's at 210 and 95. So you can tell how prevalent sexual assault is in the county. We provide confidential counseling. You wouldn't think you have to put confidential in front of counseling, but all of our services are confidential. If you call our helpline, that call is confidential. The person who makes the call, the survivor, is always the one that takes the lead on when and with whom they wish to share, whether it's a counselor or a law enforcement officer. We have support groups for everyone, including adults and children. We have a court advocacy group. We have legal assistance. Going through the legal process, you're an attorney, you know, can be daunting at best, and people really need love and support when they're going through the injunction process for their safety or child custody.
Absolutely.
We also provide community and professional training. We have 2 programs that your listeners may be interested in. One is an abuser program. We have training to help the abuser understand their behavior and to learn how to manage that. It can be successful if someone's really willing to be. We also have a school program to help children and young adults at an age-appropriate level how to understand the benefits of a healthy relationship.
Oh, wow. That sounds really amazing. With the abuser, that's the first abuser, education program that I've heard of someone offering. And I mean, how valuable is that? That's amazing, because they probably don't understand that they are most likely a victim of that cycle as well, right, Jayne? I mean, it's a cycle of abuse that generally happens in families. Am I correct?
Yes. Well, if you think of 1 in 4 men will experience domestic violence in their lifetime, often that is a result of what they witnessed as a child. And by helping them understand what may have prompted their journey into domestic violence, it can be very helpful. The program has been so successful. We did initiate it. It's being adopted in other places in the state. So we are very proud of our team for creating and having that program start to be adopted in other places.
It's a wonderful tribute to the success that you guys have had with that, I'm sure. And I'm amazed that we haven't really that hasn't been done sooner.
It would seem obvious.
Yeah, it kind of would, but we don't really always try to get to the root of the problem in our society sometimes.
Sometimes we miss the obvious, but mental health issues aren't always easy to decipher. So We're very glad that we have it now.
Well, one of the things that comes up whenever you talk about domestic violence, or, we've all heard, about these stories, and we've all heard someone say, why doesn't she just leave? If it's so bad, why doesn't she leave? That's such a loaded question and scenario. It's never that simple, right, Jayne? I mean, there's so much is going on in that relationship that
it's never simple to make that decision. And often the course, you have to understand that domestic violence isn't always physical. It can be emotional abuse, and it can be financial abuse. And often it takes the course of many years. And it's hard to plan. I mean, people are trying to plan around a woman's own life, trying to protect her children. And in some cases, they always go back and they need a plan for their pets because they're worried about their safety as well. And someone may take 9 or 10 times of going back before they can finally make a safe escape.
I do want to talk a little bit about the experience that the survivors have when they come to the Betty Griffin Center. So can you talk a little bit about what a typical situation for them would be like?
So the moment someone decides they are going to do something, they have moved into survivor mode. And for some, it takes longer. But there really are no typical stories. There are areas of support. And I know many think that happens with one middle of the night phone call and the sheriff arrives. And that does happen. Often that's not the first time that officer may be called to a domestic violence disturbance, but we do immediately get them to safe shelter. We never turn anyone away. If we happen to be full, which happens frequently, we will find safe shelter for them. We have 33 collaborative partners within the county. We also, of course, work with the state, and we have some federal groups that we work with as well. But we all work together for the safety of the survivor. And if I'm going to use she, because most often it is she, and if she is bringing her minor children. So no one's ever turned away. Someone may be in their 70s. I happen to know of a case who is a strong, independent woman who's been experiencing financial issues that over a period of time, very slowly, that power of her checkbook, if you will, to use an old-fashioned term, is being taken away from her. And we would help that person with confidential counseling. We have children who may share with a teacher. Our school district is really wonderful, and we work with them very closely. In fact, we always make a point to have someone from the school district on our board of directors. So they understand what our education and our school team is doing, and also provide a liaison within the school district. In fact, next year, we're going to be in the very fortunate position of having 2 members of the school district, both a teacher and a district person on the board. So that will be even more helpful. One of our 7-year plans, by the way, is to have our programs in every middle and high school by 2030. So we have a long way to go. But so if someone comes because of a rape or remembering a sexual assault or domestic violence and they call the helpline, we will help them set up with confidential counseling. They may decide that they would like to go to a counseling group, a support group, which is terrific. It's a way to hear from others what their experience has been. It's not only reassuring that you're not alone, you're not the only one, but it also provides coping ideas. Yeah. In many cases, when children are involved, it means going to court, fighting for child custody. We have a team at the courthouse that provides legal assistance and advocacy, which is so important, as I think I mentioned earlier. And we also have a legal team on our staff that helps with injunctions and those types of things.
Right.
Guiding them through the process.
Yes, because that's a quite scary process.
It is quite a scary process. I'll just mention that we also have experts in child counseling. We have had children, I think the youngest was 3, maybe they were 4, but we have 2 counselors that are well-trained in understanding how to help children work through their trauma. They use play, they use toys, they use artwork. And in fact, one man child talked about learning to ride his emotions like waves. And he viewed his experience as an opportunity to be brave and help others. And in fact, he did help his entire family, and he has inspired our team, and he's really quite remarkable.
He sounds very special. It just makes me emotional a little bit thinking about the children. But Jayne, if someone is listening out there and they need help, they need one of your services, how can they find you guys?
It's really easy. As I said, we're always on call. It's like we're always on call. And the number is 904-824-1555. So I know you can't scroll this on the screen, but if you want to grab your phone and type it in, or a pencil, it's 904-824-1555. We have trained people on call all the time. So please call and start. It only starts when you're ready to make that call, and let us help you figure out your next step.
And we will also link that on our website, elderlawhour.com, so you can get in touch with the Betty Griffin Center. And
thank you so much.
Yes, and receive all of the wonderful support that they have to offer. And you guys have a really special event coming up, right? It's coming up pretty soon. Can we talk about that?
Sure we can. For the first time, we're hosting a breakfast. It's on March 4th at the Plantation at Ponte Vedra Beach, and we have some terrific speakers lined up. Sheriff Hardwick is a speaker. The young, inspirational woman, Madison Schmitz, will talk about stalking and her experience in overcoming her trauma. And Kristen Paul, who wrote a book called Drowning about her experience, will also share her survivor story. You can find tickets at bettygriffincenter.org. Go to Make a Difference, special events, and buy a ticket. Buy 2 tickets, bring a friend. Doors open at 7 a.m. We also will be celebrating our 10th anniversary of our 5K race on April 6th. It starts at the St. Augustine Pier. So you should come, bring your kids, bring your dog, bring your friends. Last year, I was so inspired to see people using a walker and wheelchairs who completed this race. It's called the Run for Peace, and you can find information at runforpeace.org. So come and run or walk.
Yeah.
And they're free donuts. So run, get a donut. It's a great event.
Well, you had my kids at donuts.
They had me at donuts.
Well, that sounds great. Thank you so much, Jayne. I look forward to both events. So come on out and join us to support the Betty Griffin Center. It's such a wonderful, wonderful community of people, and I hope that we will see you all there. Jayne, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Emily, again for this opportunity.
And you've been listening to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. We will be right back.
Are you ready to invest in real estate without the headaches? Look no further than investjacksonville.com, your trusted partner in turnkey real estate investments. With over 18 years of experience, our process has been fine-tuned, and now we're opening up our team to other people just like you. At investjacksonville.com, we're selective about who we work with because we believe in delivering the best. Our dedicated acquisition team scours the market to find the finest properties, while our skilled construction and maintenance team ensures every detail is taken care of. From new roofs to granite countertops, HVAC systems to plumbing and electrical, we leave no stone unturned to make sure there's no surprises. We're in this together with our investors for the long haul. With our first-year guarantee, we put our money where our mouth is. We guarantee your rental rate for the first year, giving you time to build reserves and budget for any surprises that may come your way later. We believe in our construction team and our tenant placement team, which is why we offer this unbelievable guarantee. We're committed to your success and peace of mind. We're passionate about making it simple and easy, and a no-brainer for others to get started investing, because we know what real estate can do for people to reach financial freedom. So if you're ready to invest with confidence, contact Invest Jacksonville today at 904-536-3000 or visit our website at investjacksonville.com. Let us show you why there's nobody quite like us. investjacksonville.com, your authentic partner in hassle-free real estate investing. Contact us now.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. If you would like to connect with us, please go visit our website at emilyhickslaw.com. Or if you want to find out more about the show and today's episode, you can visit us at elderlawhour.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. Join us this and every Saturday for the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks.